We did it. We're here. we did something on time, sort of. Welcome back.
I'm always ready.
Hey, listen. Welcome back to another stellar mainline episode of Sure It'll Be Grand. And I'm here once again for my irregularly scheduled appearances on the show. And Dan is here, as always. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Owen.
Hey,
I called you Cosy a lot in the other
I've been listening. I can hear it. Yeah. You
Yeah,
always correct yourself, but you never take it out of the show, which is fine.
No, I'm not.
Well,
in case they'll use your real name, Cosy, with the banks and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Identity theft.
I'm evading tax with this thing. We are back, though. We're here. Our Lord of the Rings bourgeois marathon of Lord of Food Rings, whatever the hell we were calling it. Once again, as most things that we plan didn't pan out exactly as we hoped. We did the Hobbits. We're going to keep going with it. Yeah, We're going to keep going with it. We did the Hobbits, which was not fun. I watched the Soviet.
Yeah,
one,
I watched. Yeah, I did too.
Which, spoiler alert, is fun. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the most fun I've ever had watching anything, I think, to be quite honest. I can't wait to talk about that one. We will do it. It is next on the list. Just time caught up with us, as time tends to do, and this show came out. Honestly, it snuck up on me, to be quite honest. I spent ages thinking, fuck me, man, it's never going to come out. It's ages away. I have to wait for so long for Rings of Power, which is what we're talking about today, episode 1 and 2 of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. And then suddenly, I woke up this morning, or yesterday or whatever, and I was like, holy shit, it's today, it's out. There's 2 episodes, The Lord of the Rings, the biggest thing in my life. We have new content for The Lord of the Rings. It's finally here.
New content.
We actually have new stuff.
Yeah, and also interesting content because... it takes some ideas from books, but it's definitely more of a movie prequel series rather than the books prequel series, I feel. Looks-wise, vibe-wise.
Yeah.
It's very much focusing more on the lore of the movies than the lore.
It is most certainly, yeah. And we'll jump into the Rings of Power in just a moment. I suppose we'll catch up on some other things that have been happening. Dan and good friend Kevin have been covering She-Hulk. If everyone's been listening along, if you haven't, why not? What's wrong with you people? Listen to Dan and Kevin talk about She-Hulk. I personally am glad I'm not involved in the discussions of She-Hulk. It's fucking terrible, to be quite honest. I remember a couple of months back when I said Moon Knight was the worst MCU show.
Yeah, but you were really wrong about that as well.
I take it back. Take it back completely.
You have very weird, whole opposition opinions on this.
So far, right? What have the MCU Disney Plus shows so far? Like, what have they've been? We've had Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, Captain Falcon and the Winter America.
Captain Winter.
Is there one I'm missing?
Yes, there is.
And then another one.
Is there another one?
There's another one, I feel like. I'm pretty sure there is another one that I'm missing. So far, they've almost all been bad.
No, I don't think so. I think they've been actually quite fun.
No, look, I'm not going to go so far as to say She-Hulk is bad, even though it is bad. But it's definitely not something that I enjoy in any aspect of it, to be quite honest.
No, I think it's quite nice, quite light-hearted, like you're on the city vibes to it. I don't know, I like it.
You're very easily pleased sometimes, I think. So you're not at all. I just don't like it. I just don't like it. I think she's fine. I just don't like it. I think it doesn't help that it looks like a fucking 2011 Grand Theft Auto cutscene every time She-Hulk walks on the screen.
Kevin and I were talking about that in the last podcast. Like, the fighting scenes are fair enough because that's what they spend the money on, But it's anytime she's just genuinely walking through the office place.
It's just
like. She walked into her office in the last episode, and I genuinely thought it was her friend who painted herself green for some reason. Said, "Oh, what's going on here?" And then, "Oh no, that's her."
I think it's getting worse as the episodes progress. To be
they definitely focus on the first 2 episodes CG wise.
I think they spent all of their CG man hours on her twerking with Megan Thee Stallion for that one post credit scene. God bless the VFX artists that had to do that.
Oh my
God.
I also like Abomination. Like, we seen Abomination. That's cool. But he also
No.
they didn't show the transition. They didn't show the transition. They just they just turned the camera away and then looked back and he was the
He was
Abomination.
just there. Yeah. Also, her one fight scene in the latest episode happened in a darkly, dimly lit alley, so you couldn't really see much of what was going on a lot of the time as well.
But I mean,
which I think was.
I don't think we should mock that because like the CG artists take advantage of that kind of stuff across the board, even in. Like,
I am absolutely in no way will I ever blame the VFX artists. It is not their fault for any of this. I do not blame them. Anyway, I've been taking copious notes. All right, do you want to hear them? On everything that's happened recently that I haven't had a chance to talk about on the show.
All right,
here we go. Here's what I wrote down: She-Hulk bad, House of Dragon good. That's it. That's what I wrote. House of Dragon good, very good.
I don't know. I wasn't blown over by the first episode. I haven't watched the second episode yet.
Yeah, I was the same. First episode, I spent a lot of it going, yeah, I get it. Like it's definitely got Game of Thrones vibiness happening. I can feel it. And then like the last like 15 or so minutes of episode 1, I was like, okay, no, I'm ready. I can get back into this. Episode 2 is fucking brilliant. It's a really, really good episode.
I'm having a hard time with Matt Smith, not because he's not a good actor, he's a great actor, but it's just because I'm a Doctor Who fan, it's so ingrained in me that he's just being the angry Doctor right now.
How really good in it, to be honest.
He is really good.
A lot of them are. It's exciting to see, because one of the questions I had after episode 1 was how long are they going to wait before they start the actual Dance of the Dragons, which is the big Targaryen civil war that the show is going to cover. They're gonna just do it. It's gonna happen very, very quickly. I didn't cop until afterwards, and I was watching some like cast interviews and stuff, and there was people doing interviews with like cast interviews, and I hadn't seen them in the show, like they weren't in it, and I was like, who is she playing? Like your one Olivia Cook, who plays she's in Ready Player One. She's the girl in Ready Player One. She's in other things as well, but she's in that. She was doing all these cast interviews with another girl, and I was like, who are they playing in the show? They haven't even been in it yet. Turns out they're playing the older versions of the characters that we met in episode 1. So the show is going to jump ahead quite a bit, and like
almost like an anthology sort of idea.
I think so. Yes, I'm not sure when that's going to happen. Probably like the midway point of the season or something. Anyway, episode 2 was really, really good. I'm back in it. It's obviously can't erase the dross that was season 8 of Game of Thrones, but it's very good. It's everything good about Game of Thrones so far, without the terrible stuff. So yeah, those are my notes on things. I don't know if anything else came out recently that I didn't miss. Did we talk about Prey last time out? I think we did. Did we?
I did. No, I don't think we did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's the first time we actually got. I think it's definitely up there with like the first one. And yeah, no, I mean I like the second one a lot. A lot of people aren't a massive fan of the second Predator movie, but I think this is exactly how a Predator movie should be. This is exactly how the Predator should be, you know?
Yeah, I think it's the most threatening and cool the Predator has ever looked in any of the movies. That scene where the French fucking colonialists are like setting a trap for him in the field of smoke and stuff. That whole fucking fight sequence is absolutely incredible. It's really, really good. I would recommend everyone go and watch Prey. It's out there. It's online. It's on Disney Plus.
It's really good. I also want to be really thankful that I had a feeling from watching the trailers that her and the Predator were going to team up at one stage or something. I was like, oh, please don't do this. And they didn't. Spoilers alert.
They didn't. That doesn't happen. No. Yeah, it's cool. It's got a lot of cool shit going on. It's a really well put together movie.
Also, there is a credits scene, but it's pictorial and it explains kind of what happens after the movie. I won't tell, obviously, in case people don't want to be spoiled by things. But yeah, pay attention to the pictorial stuff.
The what stuff?
You know, during the credits, they have all the like
the end credits thing.
Yeah. It kind of explains what happens afterwards.
I see. I did not pay attention to any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's good. Yeah, it should be. We'll see what's happening in future installments in the Predator franchise. It could be interesting if this is what they're going to do and just like pop the Predator into
historical
random
shit.
places and time and stuff. That's a
I mean,
good
the
way to
obvious
keep
one is
going.
the samurai one. Like everyone wants to see the samurai one.
Speaking of franchises throwing their central characters into random places in time, and to take it back to gaming, which we haven't talked about in a while, they announced the new Assassin's Creed.
Oh yeah.
Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Yeah, it's like set in the Middle East or something, I think, isn't it?
They've kind of just teased it so far, I think, as far as I'm aware, with it's just like a teaser image. It looks like Prince of Persia, to be honest. That's the kind of vibe everybody's getting, which is, so I don't know, they've said it's kind of like another, just a standalone thing. It's not necessarily like, it's similar to the last couple, haven't really been tied into each other that much.
They also still work on the pay-as-you-go version. Like there's a Assassin's Creed they're working on that's going to be like a continued service. They'll just keep updating and on and on and on.
I have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they're working on one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Mirage could be interesting. I'm not sure if they're going to go back to, obviously the first Assassin's Creed, the original, would have been set in that kind of area of the world.
We're going to sound like the most Western people and end up being like 2 countries away, and we're just generalizing. Yeah, it's a rough.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not specifically the same country, but that area of the world. And it was, I think this was apparently supposed to originally be just a DLC for Valhalla, and now they've decided to make it its own thing. So that's happening. Assassin's Creed. I didn't play Valhalla, to be quite honest. I might at some point if it's on sale at some point. I did start playing.
Absolutely will be every Assassin's Creed game ever.
It's always. It'll be. The next big Steam sale will be like £20 or something. I'll probably pick it up then. Speaking of, I started Dragon Ball fucking Kakarot.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Fucking.
It's all right. Yeah.
No,
it is.
Not for me. Well, I didn't get to play it very much, and I'll tell you exactly why. I downloaded it, I installed it, I started playing it. I played for about 20 minutes, and then Mr. Dan Skorka logged on to his Steam and started playing, and it kicked me out of the game.
Okay.
You weren't even playing Dragon Ball Kakarot. You were just playing something. I didn't realize I'm not allowed to play anything if you're using your Steam library. Dan shares his Steam library with me. And this is the first time I've realized that if you are logged in and playing something, I can't play a title from your library. And it doesn't tell you. It literally just closed the whole application, and then you get a pop-up saying, sorry, you can't play this right now, or something along those lines. And I was like, what the hell, man? But first impressions, I wasn't mad about it, but we'll see. I'll get back into it.
I'll tell you what, as someone who wasn't a big fan of the Xenoverse stuff, it was a marked improvement for me.
I played the first Xenoverse, I think, and it was fine. It got very it got very stale after a while. Like, it was like towards the end of it, I was just kind of going, oh my god, can we just get to the end of it now, please? Which is honestly, I think I'll feel that Kakarot maybe will be the same for me. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. The mechanics are what annoyed the fuck out of me. The flying is so stupid in it. Playing with a controller, you fly Goku or Piccolo or whoever the fuck you're playing as like they're an aeroplane, and you have to pull the right trigger to descend and pull the right bumper to ascend. And
that's the one thing that did annoy me. It's like, let me just go in the whichever camera I'm looking for.
Just let me use the right fucking stick to point in the direction and fly there. Like, why? What's all this other shit? So that was annoying me. But the fighting is the same as every other Dragon Ball game. It's always a bit of crack, like just blasting Kamehamehas and people.
Yeah, I've been playing games too. Well, first of all, I've been continuing working on a mod that I've been making for Stardew. I've been working that with a friend that I've met on Reddit, and that's slowly come together. It's we don't want to say anything just yet, but it's going to come out for Christmas. We'll get in there. It's fun. We'll announce on the show when it comes out. Other games, I've been replaying Oblivion, like Elder Scrolls Oblivion, which has been a treat because I think I did play Morrowind. I got really into Morrowind back in the day, but I think Oblivion was one I super got into back then. And like, it's just fun seeing how janky it is, but also just I just love the world. I know a lot of people love Skyrim now more, and like, to be honest, any Elder Scroll games that's not Skyrim is kind of forgotten about nowadays, which is kind of a shame, because I think Skyrim personally has aged the fastest, because visually it had that 2010s look where everything was grey and brown and grey and brown, you know? Like everything, every movie, every game.
Skyrim can't age. They re-release it every 6 months.
Yeah, and they don't do anything to it.
It's brand new every 6 months, man. You can play Skyrim on your smart fridge now.
Yeah,
all right. You can just go. There's
Wasn't
a version.
On Alexa for April Fool's.
I was literally just. That's a thing. It's an actual thing.
Only in America, though.
Oh, obviously not here, but yes, you can literally play. Like, it's like fuck. You just sit there and give commands to Alexa, and she will describe what's happening. It's like playing D&D with Alexa, basically, but you're in Skyrim, and you just go, Alexa, equip my obsidian longbow, attack.
Yeah.
She describes the damage and stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've also been playing Hollow Knight, which has been a treat. I've played it in the past a bit, but it's nice kind of playing a Metroidvania sort of game. Also been playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, which is it's like a beat 'em up side scroll.
That's the that can only come out like semi-recently, didn't it?
Yes, like in the last month or so, and it hits the spot of that era of games. And obviously, if you were into the TMNT when you were a kid, like it really does. Obviously, I've been playing Splinter the whole way through.
Obviously.
Yeah. Apparently, you can like unlock Casey Jones as well, which is cool sounding. And then I mean that's kind of what I've been playing myself. Have you looked at Stray? I know already the answer is no. Stupid shit idea for a game. Brr. Oh, now you're going to do the opposite. Actually, no, it's not for me, but I really kind of appreciate it.
I'm aware that it exists. I have no interest in it. I will probably never play it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I don't really have an opinion of it either way. I don't want to play it.
Yeah. Oh, I've been playing Stellaris as well with my brother. This one.
Well, there's our gaming roundup, the first in several months.
Yes.
Should we talk about the Lord of the Rings a little bit more?
We should, because we have 2 hours of talking.
We're here for. Here we go. We are in the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Amazon Prime Videos, not just Amazon Prime Videos, the most expensive TV production ever.
More expensive than the original trilogy.
By a considerable distance.
By about a third, yeah.
Yeah, well, so obviously that was the big thing about this. Amazon are spending $1 billion on this. Now, they're not spending $1 billion on season 1, all right? Before we get ahead of ourselves, whatever the 10 episodes or whatever they're doing for season 1 did not cost $1 billion. They're spending that. They made a 5-season commitment when they purchased the rights from the Tolkien estate to the Lord of the Rings. The purchase of the rights cost like $250 million, and they said there was a couple of caveats. They had to commit to like making 5 seasons of something to do with the thing. So this is what they're going to do, 5 seasons of this Rings of Power thing. Maybe.
Yeah.
And also the Tolkien estate said you're not allowed to make it a direct sequel or shared continuity with the Peter Jackson movies. We don't like him. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah,
which of course
Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson apparently was like saying, "Hey, I'll help," and then they never came back to him.
He offered to read over the scripts like last year sometime. Apparently, apparently it was whichever one of the fucking Tolkien youngling grandkids or whatever now is over. Is it Christopher still or whichever one of them?
Christopher's still in charge. Yeah.
Well, it was Christopher then. He doesn't like the Jackson movies. He hates them. So he said to Amazon basically like, nope, don't let him look at them. Don't want him anywhere near it. Don't want this to have anything to do with the Peter Jackson movies. But Amazon said nah. So the show is not a continuing the Peter Jackson trilogies. It is not a prequel to them specifically. right? But they have then they've said this, they have purposefully chosen to make the plot centered around things that are familiar, so characters and events and things that are familiar from the Peter Jackson ones. The production and set design and all of the art and everything is supposed to be similar to the Peter Jackson movies. They got Howard Shore, the composer who made the most incredible soundtrack in movie history for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. They got him to make the theme song for this so that it sounds a bit like the Lord of the Rings. So they want you to think that it is. It isn't technically. It is not actually. This is not technically the same specific character that we met in the Jackson movies.
Not saying continuity. That's all it is.
Yeah, but they want you to be familiar with it and look at it and go, it reminds me of, and it is very similar to it. So, quick rundown, all right? So this did...
Look, for all intents and purposes, it is the same continuity.
Yeah, I mean, where do you draw the line then?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It is and isn't. We've got lots of people going on here. So when we mention familiarity, of course, this is covering the events of the Second Age. And this was something I was looking up. So the rights issue that Dan touched on earlier is that Amazon has the rights to the Lord of the Rings specifically, right?
Yeah, which includes
the appendices. And the appendices talk in not a massive amount of detail about things.
A decent amount of detail, to be fair.
It's Tolkien, so it's, you know, not a massive amount of detail in terms of Tolkien,
like
right?
Good,
you know, not
20th of the book.
Not quite as much as he went into detail about the first age, say. But so they have that, and that's why that's part of the Lord of the Rings technically, so they can use the Second Age stuff,
and the rest is invented basically.
A lot of they've kind of made up a lot of it. And they've obviously had to.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, that's fine. A lot of it, like, clearly they've had to embellish things. They have had to add characters and add plots and like things like that. As with a lot of Tolkien mythology, it is exactly that. It's mythology. It's presented in almost like fantastical, poetic form and stuff, and it's not specific. You're not really even supposed to look at it and go, that's exactly what happened. We don't really know. Like, he describes things sometimes. I think it's Finrod who we meet in this, and his battle with Sauron is described as like them exchanging songs of power or something. We don't really know what that means. Like, are they having a rock off? We don't know. Are they, things like that? So the show can kind of work with that. So that's why they've chosen to do the Second Age, and the characters they've picked to I focus on. I say focus loosely, which we'll talk about afterwards. Just a quick rundown. Elrond. We know Elrond. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. We know Elrond. Isildur will be in this. We know Isildur, of course.
Okay.
Isildur's dad also is in this.
Yeah.
Galadriel, we know and love, right? Celebrimbor, we don't know from the movies, but we know as Lord of the Rings fans. And then I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Sauron obviously is in this. Durin, who you will hear mentioned a bunch of time. Elendil is going to be in this, who we know from like the Light of Elendil and stuff. He's mentioned, his name dropped in the Lord of the Rings. And Gil-galad, the High King of the High Elves, is also in this. There's probably, there's a couple of others. The cast is massive. The sets are massive.
Gorgeous as well.
Gorgeous. I'm not going to run through the whole cast or anything. The first 2 episodes that dropped today, September the 2nd, on Amazon Prime Video, which you can get a free trial for if you want to just watch this.
Are we being sponsored?
I want that Jeff Bezos money, baby. Come on, Jeff.
You hear about Jeff Bezos' dad?
Jeff Bezos' dad?
His father went to Bezos and says, "Don't fuck this up."
Oh, it was his son, wasn't it?
Was it?
His son, I think, he said is a big Lord of the Rings fan, so he told him not to make a mess of it. Which is, incidentally, exactly what Aragorn's son told him when he was cast. Viggo Mortensen, when he was cast as Aragorn, didn't know anything about the Lord of the Rings, and his son said, "These are fucking deadly. If you fuck this up, I'll kill you." Basically. So there you go.
We owe a lot to him because Viggo did absolutely amazing.
We owe a lot to that kid. So let's go. I'm gonna play our little jingle, and then we'll dive into episodes
we have jingles.
1 and 2. what the hell is going on in the Lord of the Rings of Power?
My favorite things so far, well, it's one of my favorite things. The way the Lord of the Rings started was Galadriel speaking. Same for this.
This does start. It's not as exciting, in my opinion, as in the
Nothing
Fellowship.
starts as evil.
Yeah, but that's, I think, so this is I guess the biggest question is, right, since they want us to think this is the Peter Jackson stuff, right? So naturally we must therefore compare the characterizations to the Peter Jackson stuff.
Yeah, no, we will. No, look, I'm going to just treat this as choice. They're obviously, this is riffing off the movies. There's no doubt about that.
No,
let's be real about it.
No, there isn't. Like, they've said it. They have said it.
Yeah.
So Galadriel, right? So she's so far, I guess, our main character.
Yeah, she is.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I will say
subplots, but yeah.
I will say the main thing I think the show so far in these first 2 episodes has a little bit of an issue with focus and pacing in places.
It jumps a lot to different places.
It's trying to, and I get it, it's trying to cover a lot, right? The events that this is going to cover in terms of, so like the forging of the Rings of Power and the fall of Numenor and the last alliance of the elves and men against Sauron and stuff. In the Tolkien mythology, that took place over like a couple of 1,000 years. The show is going to condense that into probably like a year or something, or like the same amount of time as it took Fellowship.
Saying that, we can have fairly big time jumps as well. As long as we, well, except for Isildur and stuff like that, if they come in early, we're kind of fucked.
Well,
I mean, they can live for what? The Dunedains, they can live what, 250 years? Or something like that?
The
Isildur, like?
The whatchamacallums.
Yeah, Isildur.
The men of Numenor. Yes, they can live for about the same as dwarves.
We can skip a couple of 100 years.
We can. Yes. Yeah, we could.
Maybe we do it between seasons, you know? And Galadriel is an elf, so, you know.
She is, as is Elrond.
Yeah,
but that's another thing. I don't know if they're going to... I don't know how quickly... It's obviously... They're definitely not going to have this show take place over 3,000 years of the entire Second Age. That's just not feasible for them to do that. All right, that would be several different
Season
shows.
300.
We've had to recast Galadriel 75 times at this point because this thing is still going on.
Yeah, I'd watch it.
But yeah, so the show starts with Galadriel. She's our main character. We meet her when she's a little baby elf.
Little kid elf.
She's presented initially as, I guess, the fun one, kind of. Not the fun one, but like she likes
making paper origami.
She likes creating things. She's a nurturer. She's a caregiver, right? And the other elves are like, "Hey, we destroyed your little thing," and then
I think the thing that we're trying to point to that, because in like the first age and the second age to an extent, a lot of the elf clans did not get on with each other. There were civil wars.
Oh yeah,
you know, like kin killing kin. So I think this is as close as they can get to referencing that from the first age, where the kids are just douchebags.
Yeah. No, they did. Interestingly, I wasn't expecting them to start with like a fairly basic rundown of the history of the elves, kind of. Not like completely, but they did. They touched on, without specifying, like the light of the two trees and Morgoth, and they basically told the story.
They couldn't say Melkor, because Melkor is his original name, but it's part of Silmarillions. So, and the thing about Morgoth is a name to reference Harry Potter, and let's not make this a thing. It's a title elves made up in the same way as do not name him. Like, people didn't want to say Melkor. So
they call him Morgoth instead. Yeah, so they touched on as much as they could, I think, in terms of like previous stuff. I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel like maybe later on they mention Fëanor by name. I think Celebrimbor talks about him as creating like incredible things, and the stuff he makes is not as good as stuff. So they actually use his name at one point. But
they couldn't use Galadriel's brother's name though.
No. No, no, they called him Finrod.
No, they don't. They don't name him.
Okay, so I thought, because I watch things with subtitles on, his name is in. It comes up on the subtitle. It says Finrod, like dot.
Oh,
when the first time it's like Finrod whispers inaudibly or something.
Maybe they can put
maybe Amazon don't make subtitles. I don't know.
Yeah. Because they didn't mention him verbally, his name.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. They didn't. Maybe I just assumed they did because I saw his name written. But he comes along and he's. So the idea here is, I think, to present number one, the change in Galadriel between who she was when she was younger and what the war did to her, and so we pick up with her now after she's spent, I don't know, I guess centuries, if not 1,000 years at war.
Years turn to centuries, yeah. And because she wasn't born in Middle Earth, unlike Elrond later on. She came from the Undying Lands along with her.
Yeah, she went.
This is going to be over really quickly as well. Oh yes, there'll be a quick war and it'll be over. And that's it.
Quick recap that the show also gives you, but basically, Morgoth is fucking cutting about the place. He burns down the 2 trees that contain all the light of Middle Earth in Valinor,
with the big spider one as well,
where the elves and the Valar and all those guys live. The elves go to war. Finrod, who is Galadriel's older brother and has many other titles in Tolkien lore. I think the men call him Wise One or Friend of Men and all this kind of stuff. He basically leads an army of elves across the sea to Middle-earth. This is the first time the elves have ever been in Middle-earth. They arrive there and they see, as they say in the show, it's a wondrous place filled with like creatures and things that they've never seen before.
Which is a reference to the Lord of the Rings, because it's what Bilbo says at the very beginning when he describes Middle-earth. He says the exact same line.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Basically, the elves were like, we're going to go fucking wreck Morgoth back in a jiffy. The war basically just tore Middle-earth asunder and lasted for 1,000 years. And the
thing is, because the elves are mortal, they didn't understand what death really was. They never had to.
They had no, as she says, Galadriel says in it, we had no word for death. We didn't understand it. There was no word in Kenyar or Sildarin.
Sildarin, I think. Yeah.
They had no word in their language or languages for death.
Yeah.
And then afterwards it ends. There's the really cool shot of Galadriel placing a skull on a giant pile of skulls at the end.
Not a skull, a helmet.
Helmet.
The interesting thing about the battlefield, we see what is a fell beast, though some people say no, they claim it's a dragon. It's a fell beast. It looks like a fell beast. I know the dragons were meant to be there for fighting, but it looks exactly like a fell beast from Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
during the battle scene.
It catches a great eagle by the neck and pulls it down.
I love that it's the eagle thing. That's why you can't take the eagles to Mordor. That's why.
Why do you not get this? Clearly, they can't fly anywhere near the fucking battlefield, man. But yeah, that's a cool shot. So Galadriel says, by the end of it, we had countless words for death. Which is a really cool line. So that's where we meet up then, basically, with the show. Present,
brother dying and all
present
that.
Day. Finrod, Sauron, who they present in the show as Morgoth's most loyal and cunning general, or whatever.
He's basically his shadow.
They call him a sorcerer in this. And
which he has been called basically, like he's been called necromancer and all that kind of stuff.
He kills Finrod, Galadriel's brother, and marks him with what Sauron's mark is what the show is presenting it as.
Looks like an eye, to be honest. I'm sure there's some runic thing that Tolkien grew up.
It's probably the eye of Sauron,
Yeah, it's probably.
And Galadriel basically takes up her brother's cause and has spent the last
takes the sword as well, or dagger thing.
Has spent the last X amount of years pursuing what all of the other elves have basically been trying to tell her is an unending cause. That she's dragging other elves to their death in search of an enemy who no longer exists, basically.
Well, was it just me, or did you also count how many elves there were in case it was the 7? It's is it 7? Is this meant to be? It's not. It's 9 or 10.
No, there's more than that. Yeah. So that's where Galadriel is, and she so far is definitely the main character. I think, which is cool. She has the best story probably in this.
Galadriel is also
Like,
awesome, just
she's
in
also
general. I mean,
fucking yeah.
yeah,
We love Galadriel. She's awesome.
yeah,
It's cool to see. It's going to be Well, it's going to be really cool to see how the show, because the I think the showrunners have said this as well, is that they wanted to show Galadriel as far removed from the more like stately matrony Galadriel that people are familiar with as they could, and then show how she becomes that. And that's I think that's true for a lot of the characters. The same with Elrond. Elrond's progression in the show is supposedly going to be from the more optimistic kind of upbeat character that we're introduced to at the start of the show to a more sort of dour and he's the more like removed sort of I have no faith in any of you idiots kind of Elrond that we're more familiar with.
Interesting thing as well, it might have been done on purpose or not, but so he's like, he's the ambassador, or like he's the voice of the king, he goes and that's why he's called, because he's not a lord right now, but they were having a meeting of the elven lords, and he said, you are not invited to come here, because but I also thought, like, could also be a reference to, like, we don't recognize you as a full elf either, because he's half elven.
He's half elf.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wonder if his brother's gonna show up.
Yes, I'm not. I'm pretty sure we're gonna meet Elros. I think.
I wonder who they're gonna cast.
I'm not 100%, but I'm like 90% sure. Or else this is set. No, actually, I think maybe the show is after Elros has already died. I think that's when Elrond is talking to Galadriel, trying to convince her to go back to Valinor. He says, like, I've seen things too, or something like that. I think he's talking about watching his brother grow up and die. Elrond and his brother Elros are half elves, okay,
and twins.
They're twins, and they as half elves, they have the choice as to whether or not they live as an elf or they grow old and die. Elrond,
like Arwen.
Yeah, basically, Elrond chooses to live forever. His brother Elros chose to grow old and die, and Elrond had to watch him die. I think that's what Elrond is talking about when he says that to Galadriel.
Maybe we'll have flashbacks for it. I'd like to see Elros.
Yeah, you never know. We might. And then, so that's all of this stuff. Galadriel and Elrond and all the elven thing is what I loved. I thought all of that was fucking brilliant. I could have lived in that for the whole thing.
I would say it really sparked that feeling of the Lord of the Rings movies. Not completely. It's not at the same level, but after all these years, this is the closest we've got, I think, with it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like you say, it's not 100% the same feelings as watching them in the Lord of the Rings, but it's fucking close. Like, parts of it.
I really dig Elrond and Galadriel in this. I like how they're friends. I also like how I guess some people could say this as a negative thing. They kind of very much do exposition with each other. But at the same time, like, that's how elves talk. They do talk in big, massive, poetic lines of history and just say the most obvious shit. Like, that's what
they do. They're very poetic people when they talk.
And literally, Elrond, the first time we see him, he's just like writing a little poem on, like, next to a tree.
He's writing the king's speech.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
That's the exact. It's the speech Gilgalad gives when he's bestowing the gifts upon Galadriel and them. He uses the line that Elrond was having trouble writing when we meet him first. Yeah. He says that line finished, and he kind of looks at Elrond when he says that or something like.
It's so weird to me to actually, I don't know why, but seeing him scratch out a mistake, and was just like, what? Elves don't make mistakes.
Elrond doesn't make mistakes. What are you talking about, man? Elrond doesn't have to be convinced he's wrong and to change his mind. But yeah, that's the stuff I loved. I think all of that shit. Now, not to say I didn't like the rest of it. So to jump into the other characters.
Well, we should say where she went, Galadriel. Let's go through the plot a little bit with her first.
Yeah, okay. So Galadriel is leading her band of elves or whatever. She's she's Commander Galadriel. She's going to the high distant north. Following.
That's always been a thing with her as well. Like, just in the books. Sorry to interrupt you again, but it's like she's described as having like a commander stare, even in the Lord of the Rings. Like, yes, she is this beautiful woodland queen, but she's also like, she understands when to be serious and when to talk about things in a hard way. She's a badass.
Oh yeah, complete total badass.
Yeah.
But she's leading them. She's tracking. She's trying to find Sauron. Basically, she's the only one. All the other elves are kind of like, listen, he's gone, man. Morgoth's dead. The evil has been banished. The elves are no longer at war. Gil-galad basically declares finally that the elves are no longer at war and they're all going to come back to their fucking houses and whatever. The soldiers are coming home, and Galadriel is like, no.
Yeah, I want to go to this weird ice cave.
I'm in an ice cave, and they find the symbol of Sauron. They fight an ice troll, and she wants to push on, and the rest of her party are basically like, no, you're going on your own.
Yeah,
we are not doing this anymore. And they go back, and Gil-galad tries to send her back to Valinor as a reward, basically.
Yeah,
we find out afterwards that Gil-galad he's prescient. Somewhat, I'm not going to say he can see the future, but he's like, that's his thing. He has foresight a little bit. He's viewing. He's elf. He's an elf, you know.
Yeah.
Elrond even uses the line, "She has passed beyond my sight," at one thing. And I was like, "Fuck yeah!"
Oh yeah.
But he's trying to sell her back to Valinor. He's talking about it with Elrond, and they say that we discussed this. We made the right decision. This is what's best for Middle Earth and for Galadriel herself. She needs to relax, basically. Galadriel's like, no.
She wants to stay in Middle Earth. She wants to stop this evil, and she always expected to be buried with the people she fought alongside with, like her brother and the other warriors that have died in this war. And again, beautiful carving in the woods of where, and it's the elf thing where they've carved this into a tree, but the tree's still perfectly alive, you know. And it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's really gorgeous. So she's trying to. She gets on the boat. Elrond convinces her, or we think he has convinced her, to go back to Valinor and give up her quest for revenge.
Yeah,
essentially. And we think she's heading back. She makes it. She's almost there, man.
Yeah,
they get the boat.
They get the blade off her hand, you know.
They get the dagger. They take the dagger off her. She's reluctant to let it go, and she finally does. And then the light of Valinor is about to engulf them.
And it's euphoric. You can see it. She's like, oh my god, so nice. You know?
It's such a splendid moment of like internal conflict for Galadriel that it's right there. The place where she was born, as she says in the start of the thing, when the rest of them are trying to get her to turn back, and it's like, it's over. Nobody even remembers anymore. And she's like, I remember. I was there. I was born there. I was not born in Middle Earth.
I felt the light of the trees on my face.
And it's so she knows exactly what it means to finally, after all these centuries, to be allowed to return to Valinor, and she chooses not to. And that's an incredible moment. She meets up with some dudes afterwards. But I don't know. I think that's definitely, it's the main plot line so far. It's my favorite of them. But just not to, I don't want to spend the whole fucking thing talking about Galadriel.
Let's jump over to the rest. Yeah.
Just to talk about the other plot lines, because there's a bunch of things happening in all of this, which is, I think for the most part it handles them well. Like jumping between them, there are some pacing issues, and there's some things that are I didn't like quite as much as some other things. So I
wasn't mad myself on the Arondir storyline. This is the
Aragorn and Arwen storyline.
But it's Arondir, the guy, or the knife ears. Knife ears. I don't know. I think they need just to let those characters stew for a bit more, because it very much went straight away into, I love you, you know.
Yeah, I get what they're doing. Like they are definitely trying to make them a Arwen, Aragorn, Beren and Luthien type thing.
And they mentioned that it's like man and elf come together has only ever been a failure, and they point to that. Yeah, basically. You know. And Elrond's just like, what the fuck, bruh?
Yeah. So they're one of the other plot lines is an elf called Arondir, who is a soldier who is stationed in a watchtower in the Southlands somewhere.
Yeah.
Looking over a village, and the elves have been basically they've actually been watching the men in the village is what they're doing, because the men
are related to the ones that joined
their ancestors hundreds of years ago or whatever.
Not even their ancestors, it's men near to them. Unrelated men near to them.
Sided with Morgoth in the big war.
Yeah.
And so the elves have been watching them to see if anything fucking mad is going on. Gil-galad tells them all to go home, and Arondir is like, no, but I'm in love with this human, Bronwyn the woman.
I want to say, I do want to say, just before we go down that route, so like the war devastated Middle-earth. It absolutely ruined it. And you can get the vibe of that. The only people so far that seem to have been kind of unaffected in their houses and homes and that kind of stuff seem to be the elves. Like the dwarves are just fucking hiding under the mountains. They're not coming out. They have a bloody a bouncer at the gates. But the elves have like nice cities and humans are like, obviously, like any of the main things like Gondor and all that doesn't exist yet. There is no white city. Rohan isn't around just yet. But we see humans so far kind of like living in really shabby places. There seem to be it actually feels like an apocalypse, like a post-apocalypse survival kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, and they hate the elves because of it. Is the vibe you get when in that scene where that one drunk guy starts shouting at Arondir and calling him knife ears and stuff, and he says something like, it's like one of these days our true king will return and we'll finally get out from under the boots of elves.
It's not Aragorn, just make that clear.
It's not Aragorn, no, he's not.
That is some foresight.
Yeah, he's not talking about Aragorn, okay. Aragorn's not going to come around for like another like 2,500 years or something like that. But but that's the vibe in Middle Earth at the moment, is the elves. There's the elves who are the elves, as they have always been. There's the dwarves, who are the dwarves, I guess, as they've always been. They just kind of keep to their own business for the most part.
Yeah. Well, we see a bit of a Gimli Legolas situation showing up again with Elrond.
I think so. Yeah, maybe not with the thing that happens at the end of episode 2, but we'll get to that in when we cover that plotline. So that's kind of the and then there's the Harfoots that we'll talk about in a bit. So this plotline, basically, Arondir's in love with Bronwyn, who's a human healer, and
Dad's out the picture.
Dad's gone. She has a kid who blah blah blah. Arondir wants to leave. He's going to abandon the elves. Basically, he wants to stay with her. Her son finds a blade. I guess it's a Morgul blade. It has the mark of Sauron on it. It's a broken, shattered blade with the mark of Sauron on it.
And it can fix itself by sucking blood.
He finds it, and then there's some weird things happening in the Southlands. Like there's rumors of like fields of crops dying, and some guy turns up with a cow whose milk has turned into fucking tar or whatever.
Yeah. I'm surprised the cow made it that far.
To be honest, man, that thing was fucked up.
It has no marks of bruising. Okay.
What's that to just come out of it, man? Fucking, I don't know.
Did you not check before you came out?
Yeah. Is this a new development? Like, what were you looking at? They go. There's the village, the next village to the one that Bronwyn lives in. They hear that's where the cow came from. They go to have a look, and the village has been fucking destroyed. Basically, it's been set on fire. Yeah. Something has dug a big tunnel under the village, and there's no. He says later, Yowan says there was no bodies, so we guess the people have all been kidnapped and taken somewhere. And the tunnel is on it. So Bronwyn goes back to her village, tries to convince them that they need to flee. They won't believe her, and partially they won't believe her because they think that because she's in love with an elf, she just wants the elves to come back and be allowed to stay or whatever. She goes home. Her son, meanwhile, has been hiding in a cupboard because a thing has come through the floorboards.
Yeah, well it just we show what they are. Like it's an orc.
It's an orc. It's a pretty fucking badass orc, though. At the same
It
time,
is, and
it's
I fucking love how they make the orcs look.
yeah. He's
Because we see a bit of an orc early on with Galadriel when she goes into Sauron's cave, and it's like stuck inside the wall, and we're meant to they like did rituals or something. I guess maybe trying to summon Sauron or something like that. Whatever, but yeah, like the orcs look fucking badass in this.
yeah. This one in the house anyway, because I was looking at it for a bit, because you see its fucking big long ass claws, and it's pretty fucking strong. It like breaks the stairs with its hands and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was kind of looking at it going, is this just a regular orc? Was this what regular orcs are in the show? I think that's it. I think there's just an orc, but
Here's the
it's
thing.
like it's like anything
So,
where like it's going to be a case of like. So for instance, it's the same thing it's like power scaling, right? In anything, it's like when the first time they meet a cave troll in the Fellowship, it's a big deal, and then Legolas is like slaughtering entire hordes of Oliphants and stuff by the end of the movie. It's probably going to be a case of that for this one.
Right, but here's the thing, right? So, like, Tolkien always had a bit of a problem to say where the orcs came from. The general opinion is that they're a bastardization of elves, and then later with the Uruk-hai mixed with human. But I think there was like also like mixes of like half orc, half humans before this. So I wonder, like, are the orcs we see just closer to the original elf orc bastardization?
Yeah,
and then over the years they've been weakened by like interbreeding with humans and stuff.
The orc bloodlines haven't been
diluted. I mean, and I love that it's the bastardization. The thing is, Tolkien had a problem with that because he feels like everyone should be redeemable, and if the orcs are this redeemable, they're not really great enemies in fantasy. You know, in the fantasy he was writing, so he had problems with that. But even like with the troll, like the trolls are meant to be like a mockery of Ents, for example, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's interesting. I really love the design of the ice troll as well.
Yeah,
like the tusks around the mouth, really cool looking.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, she kills it. She kills this orc anyway. Bronwyn and her son eventually manage to kill it. He stabs it with the blade that he's found, and then she chops off his head.
He gets upstairs very quickly, doesn't he?
He does, and then he tries to hang it with a. That kid is a fucking badass, man. To be quite honest with you, he does. He pulls off some moves. She goes, but she takes the head back and convinces. She's all like, anyone who wants to live, we're going to the elf tower. Let's get the fuck out of here. And the kid then, it cuts back to him, and he pulls out the blade of Sauron or whatever. I don't know what to call it, but and it starts like reforging itself basically.
From his blood, I
guess because it's like taking in the blood from the orc that he stabbed, and it's like using it to forge itself anew or whatever. Pretty cool. That was a pretty cool effect as well on seeing the sword like start to
effects in general very good in this.
Very good. And there's a really good blend of like practical effects and stuff with like the big things.
I'll say this for it. It's very much a good middle ground between the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies. Like there are special effects in this, but it's like they saw how the Hobbit movies ended with all special effects. You know what? We need a lot of practical stuff here as well, and they did well with that.
Yeah, they definitely did. Arondir then, meanwhile, has decided to follow the tunnel in the other direction to see what was digging it, and
it's fucking horror movie shit, wasn't it?
Man, I didn't feel comfortable watching that when he got stuck
underground of the water. And
it was when the tunnel like curved up a bit, and he got stuck, and there was like rats running over him like in panic to get away from whatever was chasing him, and I was just like, that's my worst nightmare. I would I just give up. I'm done. Just eat me. I'd rather this thing.
Time.
Yeah, I would rather this thing behind me eats me to death than I suffocate in this tunnel, because I'm not having that.
Strange horror movie, like it was.
It was really good. Yeah. So he gets captured by orcs or whatever and dragged to their camp. That's the last we see of him. So that's that plot line. That's another thing that's going on, and then the other. God, there's a couple of other ones really. So the other race of peoples then, or one of the others that are knocking about Middle Earth at this point, are the Harfoots.
So one of the types of hobbits that we know. So the hobbits
Yeah.
that we know. So this we've seen three types of hobbits throughout the franchise now, which is one's the Harfoots, these ones. Then was Smeagol's people and Frodo's people. Sorry, I don't remember the names of the different hobbitses right now. Hobbitses, Jesus, I'm talking Smeagol already. But yeah, no, it's they're like different breeds of hobbit, and I think the Harfoots are basically extinct by the time the Shire comes around. It's the other ones that kind of mostly populate the Shire and that general area.
Yeah. Yeah. So we meet them. They're I guess they're sort of presented as like a nomadic people almost.
Yeah,
like
very earthy.
They
kind
move
of
around. They say a couple of times in it that like the blessings of being a Harfoot is that they're free from the worries of the outside world, and they don't have any contact with like strangers, or they don't like if you even choosing to help a stranger who is not a Harfoot is seen as like bringing bad luck to the people.
Yeah. But one big thing that's seen as well is that community is important to them. Like they are safe because they are together, and that's what one of the characters says to her daughter. But interestingly, we see two drivers, the guys who've been in all the trailers for some reason. With the big antler is on the back. I was looking at what are they going to be?
Who are these two? They're just two hunters that were just wandering around.
But like he says, "Oh, Harfoots aren't dangerous," and the older guy goes, like either the Harfoots have made sure that they have a bit of a legend around them of being like dangerous, or they have killed.
Maybe.
Maybe
Lenny Henry murdered a few people sometime.
Yeah.
We don't know.
They also have like a book of future things going on as well.
Yeah. There's one Harfoot who's called Sadok, played by Lenny Henry.
Yeah.
He seems to be their like mystic man in the village or whatever. He looks at the stars and reads portents in nature and stuff, and I guess his job is to, as with any nomadic people, his job is to tell them when to move camp, basically.
And it's very important for them to move as well, because later on we have this thing where one of the guys like hurts his ankle pretty badly, and they're all like, can he walk? Is he able to walk? Like, it's important to them to keep moving, like.
So the main character for this section of things is Nori, who's is a younger Harfoot. So just real quick before we get into what happens with Nori, what do you think about their accents?
Okay, right.
Because we have to talk about it.
I know
Can't not talk about it.
So at first I thought it was like a mix between Scottish and Irish, but then as it progressed, it's very clearly mostly Irish.
Supposed to be, yeah.
There's a few that kind of dance in a Scottish brogue as well.
I actually got like West Country, like
Yorkshire,
like West Country
but
farmer.
That's kind of where Tolkien thought the hobbits would have been anyway in his mythology. It's that kind of rough area and what kind of people he inspired the hobbits to him. So it makes sense for them to be, but no, they decided for and I do this quotation, the uncivilized people or the not so pretty people are the Irish / a little bit Scottish. Saying that, most of the accents aren't terrible. They're all right. I'm kind of used to Irish accents like that in media.
Yeah, they're not the worst Irish accents I've ever heard. Now I checked.
Yeah.
Obviously, Lenny Henry is not an Irishman. All right, okay, so he's trying to do one. The
local man.
The actress who plays Nori is Australian.
Okay.
She has an Irish. She actually has an Irish, sort of an Irish. Her name is Markella. It's Kavanagh, but it's got an E in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's like she probably says Kavina or something, but they're not the worst attempts at Irish accents I've ever heard. I've heard much worse, but at the same time they are going for Hollywood Irish accent.
Yeah, and they're going it's not even that. It's not even just it's the typecasting again. I was talking to a friend just today actually, and Scottish fella, and we were talking about the dwarves from The Hobbit. and all the pretty dwarves like Philly, Killy, and Thorin, all English accents, right? All the ugly ones, dumpy ones, weird ones, all Scottish mixed with a bit of Irish, and it's always like
Yep.
that in media, and it's kind of tiring. Now, I'm saying that, obviously, you know, they're heroes, and we should like them for the heroes, and yeah, that's fair enough. And look, to call Markela ugly, she's not. She's gorgeous.
No, none of them are. They're not ugly. Like
they're all good, but they're meant to be simpleton, sort of uncivil, not uncivilized.
They are.
When I say just quickly, when I say uncivilized, I mean it in that English American centric idea of what is civilized and what is not. Whereas, like, the hobbits are civilized in their own manner.
But they are what the English would have seen the Irish as.
Yeah.
Like,
what the rest of the world.
That was the ideology of what an Irishman was as presented by the English Empire. Years ago. Look, it's not terrible. Like, I got over it pretty quickly, but it was at first I was kind of like, are they all trying to do Irish accents? Is this every actor in this thing trying to do?
They got better, I found.
I think I don't know if they got better. Maybe I just got used to it. By like episode 2, I was just kind of tuning it out, and I just chose not to think of it as an Irish accent, to be honest.
Oh, I did. I couldn't get away from it. The thing is, I personally think the accent's actually quite good-ish. You know, I don't actually think they're that bad. So, like, I think that's why I kept on hearing it as an Irish accent. It's like, oh yeah, it is an Irish accent.
Look, they're okay. It's not gonna it's not gonna fucking.
Look, they're not going around top of the morning. Oh!
It's not. It's not. They're not on that level, right? It's not that quite fucking hiddly dee. But anyway, Nori's the main one, and she's a Harfoot, and she yearns for adventure. Basically, she wants to see.
She's alpha tuck.
She's fucking mad, and she's always running off, and she's fucking cutting about the place, stealing berries off farms she's not supposed to be into. And fucking
interesting, they called it an old farm, right?
But there are no.
But do you think the hobbits, like these people, were at one stage more settled? That was their plot of land at one stage, and they decided to become nomadic after the war.
It's a possibility. I feel like maybe it's somebody else's farm, and that's why there was the wolf.
Very wooded,
was like guarding it or whatever.
No, it's not a wolf.
Well, it's not a wolf. They call it a wolf, but like.
Yeah, but it's the fellas from like the warg. It's a warg. It's just a different design warg. Yeah. It is.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right. No, you're right about the warg thing. I mean, maybe you're right about the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nori anyway wants to fucking go off and see the world, and in contrast
she wants to see where the rivers go, and
in contrast to many of the Hobbit protagonists we meet initially, they're always like, I don't want to leave the fucking Shire. I don't want to see the world.
To be fair, Frodo was kind of ready to go.
Frodo, he never really was like, oh fucking can't wait to get out of this place, man. I want to go, but he didn't.
But he wasn't. Yeah.
But he was like,
Gandalf
was like, you gotta go, and Frodo was like, all right, well, I guess I gotta go. She's very. Anyway, that's her thing. She wants to fucking see the world. She wants to see everything outside of Harfoot fucking family.
Where the sparrows learn their songs and all that kind of stuff.
She wants to learn about things. She's adventurous.
Very nicely said.
She's curious about the world. And lo and behold, a giant thing falls from the sky.
Did you see the ends during that scene?
Yes. I did.
Yes, I did not. I saw a recap of it. Oh shit!
It's super brief, and they're like.
Do you think we'll get the Entwives?
I hope so.
God,
I hope. We got dwarf women. Why can't we get the Entwives? But a thing falls from the sky. Well, it's a meteor. A meteor falls from the sky and it hits the earth, and everybody sees it. Right. This is the thing. It's not like. It's not like a localized thing. Like all the characters, like Elrond sees the meteor falling, Gil-galad sees the meteor, like they all see it in the sky, and it happens to make impact, like 12 yards from where Nori is standing, basically.
Yeah.
And she runs down. She's got her friend fucking Poppy or whatever her name is with her, and in the crater is a man.
Yeah.
A giant, as the Harfoots call them.
Human sized.
Human size. He honestly looks like he might be bigger than a regular ass human. To be quite honest, he's a fucking big dude.
Yeah, but I liked some of the shots they had with him and the hobbits. Like I liked that we had that in the scene. You know, it was a nice scene.
There's some cool stuff. So okay, so here now, do you want to talk about the dwarves first and come back to this guy?
No, I want to talk. Right. No, let's talk about this guy. Let's talk.
Okay, so there's a guy in the crater, right, and he's presented as, we don't know. He's even called, he's referred to in casting notes and everything as just the stranger. Like, they want us to figure out or to guess at who this fella is, right?
And there's two very obvious ones that could be.
There's two main theories, essentially, the big obvious ones, and it's probably, honestly, it's definitely one of the two.
Some people suggested it could be one of the blue wizards.
Oh, well, that was the second one I was thinking of. Oh, you're thinking.
Oh, right, no. Yeah, okay. I'm thinking that they might rewrite some of the origins of a certain character.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But to present it, right, this guy's meteor falls from the sky. Nori runs into the crater, and in the crater is a man lying in the center.
Fiery eye of a crater.
In a fiery eye. Yeah, he's in the middle of it, and Nori falls into the crater, and then she realizes, oh, it's not hot. Like, it's fire, but it doesn't burn. First time we heard that in the show was right at the start when Galadriel is in the north in the cave, and she says it's the evil here is so strong that our torches don't give off heat. That's
a good point.
There's no heat here.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of really obvious things that says that this guy is Sauron, right?
Another thing I want to say, right, just before we got with Sauron, right? So what happened with Melkor is that after the war he was banished into the abyss, nothingness, right? He's just in the void. And now Sauron in the original Silmarillions and all that kind of stuff wasn't thrown in the void. He just went into hiding and then came back out and said, hey, look, I'm actually a okay guy. I've repented and all this kind of stuff. That's kind of how it goes in the books. But I'm starting to wonder, maybe in this continuity, if it is Sauron, maybe he was thrown into the void as well. The void being space.
Yeah, it's
and he just came a bit close because he wasn't as thrown out as far as Melkor.
It's always possible that and it would maybe set up because obviously the big ending prophecy of Middle Earth is the Morgoth is going to come back.
Yeah.
He'll be released from behind the doors of death or whatever it is, and he will come back and end the world basically. But yeah, they could be doing that. I honestly, there's so many things in it that point to him being Sauron. It makes me think he's definitely not Sauron. Because there's too much.
I agree with you.
It's way too heavy on the symbolism for it to be Sauron.
And then they did double one. It's later on when they find him and they have lanterns with fire, fireflies in it, and he releases them and he does the Gandalf thing where he talks to the insects and they do a big pattern. Creating stars.
He places them in the sky as stars, which is
very much a Gandalf thing. But
he fucking powerful.
Yeah, but it's very much a Gandalf thing. Talk to the insects. But then they all die as well.
Yeah.
And he also broke your once dad's ankle with a twig.
So
but that was a staff thing, sorry. But this is like the staff being shattered, breaking them from afar. That's a thing as well.
No, so I know what you're saying.
Is
right?
it Gandalf? We're gonna Sauron?
Let's just run through the points in favor of, because the two big theories is that it's Sauron or that it's Gandalf, right? There's a third theory that I think is probably I prefer that if it was Gandalf.
Yeah.
But the two big ones are it's Sauron or it's Gandalf, right?
Yeah.
Both can make sense. They're leaning into either of them. I think they're definitely leaning more into Sauron. But so in favor of Sauron, giant fiery crater that looks like an eye, right?
Yeah.
He's in the middle of it, flaming eye of Sauron, right?
Yeah.
He carves the symbol of Sauron into the ground and the wood and stuff. What he says to some of the only words he says to Nori, and he says that it's in Kenya, and he says Mana Ue, and he says it a couple of times. I think apparently that translates to what is fire or what is heat or something along those lines. And then there's the like evil seeming nature of the things like that happen around him, like the thing breaking his leg and stuff. On the Gandalf side of things, there's the firefly thing. He talks to the fireflies. He seems very gentle with them, and he places them in the sky like stars. It's a very fucking Istari type Gandalf thing. He does the bit when he wakes up first, and Nori has her hand out, and she's like, "No, it's me. I'm your friend," or whatever. All of the imagery is very much like Gandalf getting angry, making himself big, and all the like and everything, the shadows leaning in, and him like that. That's Gandalf imagery straight off the fucking bat. The staff.
So much of imagery though is like it can really fit with both.
Yeah,
so much of
I think Sauron is too obvious. I don't think he's going to be Sauron. I'm pretty.
I would say another thing for Gandalf, just to go on, is in one of the trailers we have her giving him an apple as well.
Oh, it's the character poster for The Stranger. Is his hands holding an apple.
Yeah, and like that again, it would make sense. Like Gandalf.
That's a point in favor of Sauron.
Why?
Because the apple is a biblical symbol of betrayal.
Oh, stop! No,
that's exactly it. The apple is that's what an apple signifies.
I think it really within the Lord of the Rings mythos. I think it just more implies that hobbits looked after Gandalf. That's why Gandalf cares so much.
But Sauron is in this era going under the name, what is it, Antanar or something? Is the trickster.
Yeah.
It's a poisoned apple that he's giving them, a la the rings. Huh?
Okay, yeah, I guess. There is some, I guess, but I think it's as much of a point in each way in this regard, you know.
Here's the thing, what does your heart tell you?
Gandalf.
You think it's Gandalf?
No, I think it's someone else altogether. But here's the deal, right? If it is Gandalf, they are changing his origin big time.
Yeah.
Because originally he's meant to come over at the beginning of the Third Age after the War of the Ring, and he arrives with all the other wizards by boat, not by flaming asteroid.
Yeah. So that's the big point of why why you'd say it's not Gandalf, because if it is Gandalf, they're changing the whole history of Middle Earth for the show.
Yeah. Also saying that, not really changing the movies that much, because that was not ever
it's
really
not.
mentioned.
It doesn't come up in the
if
movies.
If it turns out to be Gandalf, I'd be like, all right, yeah, fair enough.
It's not a thing. I think it'd be pretty cool if it was Gandalf, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so the third theory then is that it's one of the blue wizards. Or what a Maiar who has arrived in Middle Earth.
I'd say it's more likely that it is a Maiar
in preparation for the war that is coming. Basically.
Well, obviously it has to be Maiar. It can't just be it's an elf.
Yeah, it's just an elf, man. It's Feanor.
Fucking asteroid. I'm back, baby.
It's one of the Valar, man. They're fighting. When he's come home. They're finished building the sun. He's coming back now.
Yeah.
But so it could be anyone. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
They definitely want you to think it's Sauron, I think.
I genuinely think they're doing both. I really think they're going like,
is this Gandalf, at the very least, they want you to think about it. They want us to have these discussions and try and see if you can figure out
I love it.
who he actually is. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how long they go on with it for. Like how is it going to be? Is this thing going to be like an end of season reveal as to who he actually is? Like, is it a slowly like piecing together? Like, every episode is going to have hints in different directions, and we're going to do blah blah blah, and then at the end of this season, they're going to be like, "Ha ha, it's this guy."
Here's an interesting thing. Some people think we actually may have met Sauron anyway, and Sauron, it being the guy that Galadriel. So when Galadriel jumped off the boat and decided not to go, she eventually gets picked up by people who are on a raft because they lost the boat.
Yeah.
And as these things go, big monster appears. Everyone in the raft gets killed except for the pretty one, and he brings Galadriel back on the boat. And the whole explanation is that like, his people are gone and all this kind of stuff. But some people saying like, could this be Sauron in disguise? You know, getting on. I mean, who better to plant right in front of Galadriel without her knowing than Sauron?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, she found him, but she doesn't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you could be. You could be right. We don't know anything about this guy, really. The guy that she meets in the vote. It's Halbrand.
He's a new character. Yeah, he's a
Halbrand
new
is his
character.
name. He's not a character from the thing. There's a couple of them going to pop up. They've given Isildur has a sister in the show. Obviously, we haven't met Isildur or Elendil or any of them yet.
Yeah.
We're going to meet them next week. We'll talk about that at the end because I watched the teaser for episode 3. But yeah, it could be. At this stage, I think anything's fair game at this point.
And that's the best part of it.
Sauron could be anyone.
But this is a mark of a good show. It lets you talk and communicate and like make theories and say like it's doing its job really fucking well.
It's very fitting for what Sauron was doing in this era of Middle Earth that we don't really know who he is or where he was or how he's going to appear, that kind of thing.
What we do know is that eventually Sauron, like in the original like Silmarillions, is that he returns, he puts himself in like looking back the way he was, being a really positive Maiar, and he goes he gets captured by the elves and the elves send him back to Valinor and he gets imprisoned, but over a while he gets released again. And, you know, they start seeing him, okay, he's been redeemed, he's grand, he's fine, and then he fucks off to Middle Earth and he fucks with the Dunedain and the Dunedain like sink their own island. Oh no, they don't sink their own island, but they get their own island sunk.
The Valar sink. Don't they?
yeah. And then I think it was a Iluvatar even who did, but yeah, and he goes off to Middle Earth. So this is in the moment before he goes to Valinor, if they're following the original book.
Yeah, if they are, this is he's returning as a presence in Middle Earth. We just don't know yet what form that's going to take.
Here's an interesting thing. Where do we meet this new guy that Galadriel met? She was just swimming for a couple hours, but maybe he was trying to find a way to get to Valinor.
Maybe he was trying to get back to Valinor?
Yeah.
Possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all possible.
And he seems like, physically, he looks like a very nice looking man. So, it kind of fits into the whole idea of being disguised as being beautiful again.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's going to make sense that Galadriel is going to meet up with Elrond again because we know Sauron works with Celebrimbor, isn't it?
Celebrimbor.
Celebrimbor. And like they work together on making rings. So like it makes sense. This is why this character exists.
Perfect segue into the final plotline. That we need to discuss, which involves the dwarves.
Yes.
Elrond gets told by Gil-galad that Gil-galad is basically like, you've heard of Lord Celebrimbor? And Elrond's like, the greatest elven smith to ever fucking ever? Yeah, I've heard of him, bitch. And Gil-galad is like, well, he's here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Lord Celebrimbor. And everyone's like, oh my god, it's Celebrimbor. And Celebrimbor's like, what up, dude? Celebrimbor explains to Elrond. He
looks like an old dwarf.
He's an old elf, man. He basically explains to Elrond his plan. Basically, he's like, Elrond's like, but you're the most famous smith in elven culture. Like everybody, your works are incredible. You love it. And Celebrimbor's like,
oh yeah, but I can make the Silmarils.
Yeah, but they're not as good as Fëanor. He made the Silmarils, man. What the fuck
they pronounce it really interesting.
Silmarils. They didn't really mumble over.
See, mine always say Silmarillion.
The Silmarils. And so he's basically like, I want to make something that will like change Middle Earth and improve it and make it better and blah blah blah. And Elrond is like, what are you going to make? And Celebrimbor's like, what is a question for another time. right now we got to figure out how, and this is how. And he wants to build.
And this is what.
Yeah, yeah. He wants to make a giant forge, basically a massive tower that's a forge. And he's like, Gil-galad said he can't give me the men, so he gave me you. And Elrond's like, have you thought about asking somebody who's not?
I'm one man.
Yeah. Have you thought about asking somebody who's not an elf? And Celebrimbor's like, hang on now.
He goes like, I haven't thought that. How far out?
Yeah, it's like, who?
Wait, is it like gradient? It's like, does he look at like humans like, kind of elvish?
Well, Elrond's like, have you thought about asking somebody who's not an elf? And Celebrimbor's like, well, we got you, didn't we? You fucking idiot.
Racist.
Wow. So they go to Khazad-dûm, one of the dwarven stronghold cities, whatever, under a mountain. And Elrond is like, yeah, I'm good pals with Durin. He threatens.
Durin the Fourth.
He threatens to say, my friend Durin will give us a royal welcome at one point. But he doesn't quite. And then they get there and the dwarves have locked themselves away as they do. Basically, they're like, nah, nobody's allowed in. So Elrond invokes the right of Sig Athum. I've definitely said that wrong. It's something along those lines, though.
And he tells Soundboard to like.
He's like, listen, right. Celebrimbor, you just go home there. I'll be back there in a few days. Leave me do my thing, all right? And so we meet Prince Durin, and him and Elrond they have a competition. It's basically a strength of arm contest where they have to keep smashing boulders until one of them can't continue anymore. Durin's basically like, if the elf loses, he's banished from all dwarven lands forever. If he wins, we'll grant him one boon. Elrond quits, and Durin's like, get the fuck out of here. I'm pissed at you. It's been 20 years since you came in here. You missed my wedding, the birth of my kids. You never even sent a letter. Nothing out of you.
It's been 20 years, bro.
It's 20 years. I know that's like the blink of an eye for an elf, but it's a long time for me. I've lived a long time in those 20 years.
Yeah, I've lived a life.
Yeah. And Elrond is like, listen, let me apologize to your wife or whatever. And Durin's wife is the female dwarf that they've been using in all of the promo images.
Future Queen.
The one that everybody was giving out about.
Yeah, and she's great.
For apparently no reason. She's brilliant. She's really good. Durin's great as well. They are again, they're hamming up the dwarves or Scottish vibe. It's really cool. Well, maybe it's not cool for Scottish people. Scottish people, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely getting the vibe though that she's just like, will you two both just kiss?
Yeah, will you just? Come on,
you know,
come on.
She doesn't seem to be bothered at all. She just realizes like her husband has missed. His friend.
He was genuinely hurt. Durin was genuinely hurt by Elrond like not going to his wedding and stuff.
Interesting thing about Durin, though, it's was speculated at the time that he was the reincarnation of the original Durin because he looked exactly like him and acted like him.
Maybe he was.
So there you go. Yeah. Maybe he was.
Elrond explains his plan. Basically, he wants the dwarves to help him and Celebrimbor build the big fucking forge, or whatever. And Durin's like, sure, I'll speak to my old lad, the king, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where it ends, right? What's in the box? What did the dwarf? Because they're talking about it. There's Durin and Durin are talking about it, and they're like, "Listen, Durin's like, he doesn't have a clue. He doesn't know that we have this." And the king is like, "Well, it's a fucking big coincidence that he just turns up here, like out of the blue after whatever." Yeah. And Durin's like, "Listen, man, I've known him for like 50 years. I'd know if he was hiding something." And the king is like, yeah, but maybe he will know then if you're hiding something. And they open a box and there's light shining out of it. It's a fucking Silmaril. It has to be.
Or it could be, what's the metal called again? The invulnerable metal that Frodo had a vest of.
Mithril?
Yeah, it could be Mithril.
It could be. I still think it has to be. It's a Silmaril, right? It has to be.
But again, but can they use this? They can't use this. Well, they can. The dwarves, it's an appendix.
The dwarves had one for fucking ages.
Yeah, I know, and it's the one that was buried in like a volcano grew over it. That's how they lost it. It was like buried in the deepest ground, like.
Yeah, well, then they got it back and they put it they wore it in a necklace. They made like a big super fancy.
But when it eventually got lost again, it was like in the deepest
I think it's the one.
Earth,
I think it's the
one. The other
that,
one's like in the deepest ocean.
I think it's the one that the dwarves end up with is the one that Beren steals back. He takes it out of Morgoth's crown, and it ends up with the dwarves. I think it could look. Listen, it might not be a Silmaril. It might just be a semi-Silmaril, but it has to be something for the dwarves to be hiding it.
It's the Arkenstone. No,
it's the Arkenstone. Is the Arkenstone Silmaril? No, what is it? It's just a shiny rock, man. Whatever.
It's a ring. All right, it's fine.
It's the shiny rock. It had for them to be hiding it from the elves. I think maybe the dwarves they have a Silmaril, and that's partially why they have closed themselves off from everyone. They're not letting anyone in. They're kind of like, if anybody finds out that we have this, the elves are going to want it bad. They will come and take it from us, and we're not willing to do that. And as Celebrimbor says, when he's discussing the creation of the Silmarils and the works of Fëanor and how he's not as good as Fëanor, he says the Silmarils were so incredible they almost changed Morgoth's mind.
Yeah, because he just looked at it like a week
Morgoth got them, opened them, stared at the light of the Silmarils for like 3 weeks or something, and basically he was almost going to go, yeah, what? I'll just keep these and just chill. I don't need to do anything else. They were that.
No, he's actually like, yeah. But the thing is, right? He's seen it. He's seen the trees as well. So like,
he burnt them down to me.
Yeah. Maybe he was just having a cigarette, and then when he saw the tree, he went, oh no, and the ash just fell and just like burnt the entire tree.
That's what it was. Just an accident, and he had to. It was either admit that he's a fucking bumbling idiot, and he accidentally burnt down the trees that held the light of the world, or no, actually, I'm evil. I'm actually an evil guy. I'm a bad guy.
Yeah, it's completely fine. Yeah,
meant to do that. I guess I gotta lean into this evil thing for the rest of all time, I guess. So yeah,
Sauron's just like his friend, like really support friends, like, oh, okay, I'll go with you.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think it's a Silmaril. It's another question that they've left. They really kind of did a bit of a mystery box thing for these first 2 episodes in places, didn't they? They left a lot of what is it? What's happening here? What's going on over there? Is this what you think it is? Maybe not. Find out next week on The Rings of Power.
Kind of, it's a weird thing to wish for, but there's a part of me that kind of wished that they only released 1 episode.
No, I think I think you needed 2. I think there's way too much. There's an awful lot of things that they have to establish at the start of this, as in who's who and where people are and what's happening. I don't think 1 episode would have been enough. Honestly, even if the episodes are almost 70 minutes long each, and they could have been longer, even, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff they need to get through. I think from here on out, 1 a week will be fine. But I think 2 off the bat was a strong decision.
Maybe.
Yeah, all right. We do our final thoughts.
Let's go.
Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
Fitting.
Hey.
Fitting. How fitting. I never even copped it when we did The Hobbits, to be honest. We listened to it for so long.
We don't even recognize The Hobbits as a Lord of the Rings thing. Just whatever.
No, it's fine. All right, so overall, yay or nay?
Very much a yay.
Yeah, it's a yay. Yeah. It's a yay.
I know a lot of people are now comparing to Game of Thrones and all this kind of stuff, but I heard some people consider it too generic fantasy, and they say, if you just took the Lord of the Rings elements out of it would just be boring fantasy. And I'm just like, but you realize Lord of the Rings invented modern fantasy. The generic is the Lord of the Rings, you know?
Yeah, but as well, it's not really an argument there, is it? Looking at something and go, well, if it didn't have all these things in it, it'd be bad. But those things are in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be more take the names away, and it's just
you mean? Yeah, I know, I get what they're saying, but it's a fucking stupid point. It is the Lord of the Rings. You can't just say well, yeah, if Marvel wasn't Marvel, then it'd be shite. But it is Marvel. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I think it's fucking great. Again, my if I had to like rank all the different plots in order of how much I enjoyed them, Galadriel number 1, Elrond number 2, and then I think my least favorite was the Harfoot stuff.
I actually quite like that myself.
Not that I didn't like it. It's not that I would never. I'm not going to go as far as say I didn't like them. But I found it less interesting than everything that was happening with Galadriel. I would have been fairly comfortably ecstatic if the whole show had just followed Galadriel.
Here's an interesting thing. With the Lord of the Rings, mostly it starts with one storyline and it branches off with different characters as they leave.
Yeah, you
the
think
group.
they're doing the opposite here?
Yeah, I wonder if they are.
I think
it would make sense, you know.
I think it will. I think it's gonna happen slowly, but there will there'll come a big moment in like season 2 or like the end of this season where like 2 of these characters will meet like for the first time or whatever. It will all have to tie in together somehow. Like all of this has to be connected eventually to the forging of the rings and all of that kind of stuff. It would be very strange if it wasn't, to be quite honest. Eventually Galadriel and Elrond and Celebrimbor are dealing with the Rings of Power and Sauron, and we just keep cutting back to like Nori Harfoot and she's just doing nothing in the corner.
Sorry, it's kind of unrelated but related. So obviously, like Minas Tirith doesn't exist right now. This is before Minas Tirith and all that kind of stuff. But if we are going to introduce Isildur and that.
Minas
In the original stories,
but Minas
Tirith
did, I think.
I don't think it did. No, I don't think so.
I feel like there was an original Minas Tirith. It may not have been the same Minas Tirith, but there was a Minas Tirith.
It was just another white city buried in a mountain somewhere. Maybe maybe they go to Minas Ogul in Mordor.
Minas Morgul, yeah, maybe, yeah. And they got I'm not sure. I feel like there was a Minas Tirith years ago, and maybe I'm wrong. And it eventually became the Minas Tirith, the capital city of Gondor. But again, that could be early Third Age thing.
But again, if we're introducing Isildur, Gondor exists.
So what they're doing here is right, so to talk about it, I don't know if you watched it, but there's on Amazon Prime, there's a teaser for the next episode. It came up, the teaser for it. There's not much in it. It's like a very short, it's like 30 seconds, if even. The ship that turns up at the end to save Galadriel and Halbrand, not 100% who he is. I think it was Isildur. The next episode
his sister's in it anyway, isn't it?
Isildur has a sister in this. Yeah, they've made her up. Yeah. They've made up a sister for the show, and we meet the Queen of Numenor and King Elendil and all of them. And we're going to meet them all in the next episode, because the next episode is Galadriel and Halbrand. They get that ship, rescues them, and takes them to Numenor.
Yeah.
We see the teaser is literally like them getting off the ship, and Halbrand is like, "What the hell?" He says something about where they are, and he's like, "Where the hell are we?" And Galadriel kind of looks around in awe, and she's like, "There's only one place this could be." And then the teaser like ends, and I was just like, "Numenor! They're in fucking Numenor!" So yeah, I think we're gonna meet Isildur and Elendil and all of them in episode 3. I think
if that's the case, then so Aragorn was born after his father's death, wasn't he? Like Aragorn's mother had Aragorn
after Arathorn died.
After is Arathorn. Oh, I'm mixing it up with Isildur and Arathorn. Sorry. That's my mistake.
Isildur is not Aragorn's dad.
Yeah, no, I'm mixing them up.
Yeah. No, so Gondor doesn't exist.
No, then the time thing makes sense. So
I think we might get. I think they might say that like Isildur, like the rumblings of the founding of Gondor or whatever, once he becomes like the king of men and stuff. But yeah, the show is going to be
Numenorian. He's like
he's the prince of Numenor. Like his fucking dad is Elendil.
So like Gondor at best is like an outpost at the moment.
If even. I wouldn't say it's even a thought thing, to be honest. I think they just the men of Numenor stay in Numenor mostly. Like I don't think the Dunedain just to hang out in Numenor. Like, we'll see. Obviously, the show is going to cover the fall of Numenor and the sinking of the island and everything, and then the Dunedains venturing out into Middle Earth.
Again,
I think
that
maybe
has to happen once Sauron shows up and like gets into their head.
No, see, that's what I mean by when I said earlier. So they've committed to like 5 seasons of this thing.
Yeah.
So like the fall of Numenor is going to be like a season
3 or
season
4
4
yeah.
thing that happens,
Yeah,
and the final season would probably be the last alliance of men and elves against Sauron kind of thing. I think season 5 will be just battles everywhere. But I think maybe the end of this will be the beginnings of Gondor. In that once the Isildur forsakes everything and chooses not to destroy the ring in Mount Doom, and then he is in Middle Earth now, and he will.
I would love
start.
some posts. I'd love some posts like, no, I will not throw the ring in. I want to see some of that stuff happening on screen. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I think that'll be the final season. I think they'll do all that at the end of it. And then oh god, yeah, there's so much they can do. Really, well, there's not a lot, but there's so much they can do.
There is a lot because they're also inventing a lot. And honestly, as long as it's in the spirit of it, I don't mind.
No, you're allowed to do that. Like, it's not. It's an adaptation. It's not a fucking straight copy of things. Like they're gonna change things. It has to happen, even solely by the fact that this is a vastly different medium than a fucking book. They have to cut things, and they have to change things, and they have to make it more streamlined in terms of how things happen. They can't just fucking jump around the place and just tell it like it's a poem collected in a history book found in a library. Like, they have to change things, and they will, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's ever going to make a fucking carbon copy. They're not. You can't just click your fingers.
And you shouldn't.
And make it so that the book becomes live in front of you. Like, it's not going to work.
It was just be describing a field for a very long time.
A very long time. Very long time. But
that's always my argument with Tolkien, because I love Tolkien, but also he rambles sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fantasy, a lot of high fantasy writers tend to do it, but I mean, as with everything, Tolkien started it, and he was the best at it. Look, I just hope I was reading like rumors a couple of days ago before this came out that Amazon has basically been saying internally that if this isn't the biggest thing they've ever done, like in terms of success, not like popularity and success for Amazon, it will spell trouble for a lot of other things.
Let's be real, it has to compete with Game of Thrones.
Well, that's what I mean.
People say like this is better than Game of Thrones. It does.
But even in terms of like streaming views and things like that, it has to be the biggest thing on Amazon Prime ever, or they will consider
Mind you, there is not much on Amazon Prime.
But they will in Amazon's eyes, if it's not absolutely gigantic, they'll consider it a failure and not worth the money they spent on it. And if they think this wasn't worth, if they think like this show wasn't worth the money they spent on it, they're not going to spend money on other shows. No. Basically. So it'll spell trouble for the Wheel of Time, probably, and other things.
Yeah,
but
we see it with Sandman as well. Like, Sandman had massive success on Netflix. But even now, like, Gaiman has made a point that unless people are vocal about it, we might not get a season 2, which is insane to me. You know?
Yeah, it's mad. And that's the problem. It is getting review bombed a little bit already from fucking idiots.
You IMDb hooks. Like, I went on YouTube and looked for like reviews because I want to watch a few reviews and see what other people thought. And the first 10's like, the fans were right, sad eyes, and all this kind of stuff. Like, the first 10 videos is just video after video after video, people talking shit about this
I was sitting down to watch it this morning. My housemate came in and I was like, oh, I'm going to stick on the Rings of Power. You want to watch it? And he was like, oh man, I've heard nothing but bad things. And I was like, what? I was like, it came out this morning. I was like, yeah, anyone I've talked to about it have said it. They were like, no, it's shit. I'm not going to watch the rest of the season. Like, I didn't like it. And I'm like,
because I want to say this, right? People are allowed to not enjoy this. It's perfectly fine. That's natural. People have different opinions, okay? But let's not pretend there wasn't a big vocal group of people that saw a couple of darker skinned people and women being in charge in the trailers and have been preparing to absolutely shit on this.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know?
I want to say it right. This current period of television is my dream scenario, right? All of the things I love, specifically me, are getting turned into, and I mean like fantasy works. That like everything I love is getting an adaptation, right? The Witcher is on TV at the moment. The Wheel of Time, my favorite thing ever, is on TV at the moment. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, my favorite book ever written, is getting an adaptation into a movie.
I know you weren't a big fan of you didn't read the comics, but it's fantastic. You've watched it now.
The Lord of the Rings is a big fucking thing. Like, these are all shit that I loved, and if idiots out there ruin this because their little fucking pea brains can't handle the fact that a black woman is playing a dwarf in a fantasy TV show, then just don't watch anything ever again. Just shut the fuck up and just go home. Just sit in your room and watch fucking Joe Rogan and turn your fucking little brain off from the little power that it has and leave the rest of us alone.
Yeah. No, genuinely. And again, just to make it clear, there are some people who are of good faith who will come to this and just not dig it. And that's fine. I get it. I know people who love The Hobbits. I hated The Hobbit, but that didn't mean that I went out of my way trying to cancel
I can accept valid criticisms. Clearly, this, like, no show is perfect. Obviously,
the pacing in this was not great.
No, the pacing needs work, and that's an issue that comes with trying to follow a whole bunch of different things happening at one time, right? And there are issues.
I don't know if the couple thing that going with the elf and the woman, like. I actually want to revise my earlier point. That was my least favorite plotline. Actually, like that was my least favorite one, and I think the characters kind of forgettable. Those two, at least. I remember all the other ones. Enjoy those. That was like all right, okay,
yeah.
You know, but again, it might get better, it might get worse. Maybe Galadriel will be boring after this, but yeah, look, folks. All I say is like. Don't review bomb it. If you don't like it, you're welcome to go on and give your points and say why you don't like it. But if it's just a matter of like you don't like it because there's a black woman who's going to be a queen, and you know, a main character is a woman, Galadriel is, and you can't deal with that, kindly fuck off from the podcast as well. Review bomb us. Fucking go for it.
Yeah, we love a review.
Yeah, we have one.
We'd love to get a review, man. That'd be fucking awesome if somebody reviewed us, even if it wasn't negative.
No, but review bomb us because we're going to be the same enemy you see in it. You are being the cancel culture here. You are. You know, all the thing, you cancel culture doing this. You are being that. Anyway, sorry. Before getting angry, it's a really great episode. I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, can't wait. We'll be back next week to cover this. We're going to do it weekly. Cover every episode and talk about it a lot. Probably get mildly obsessed with it, more so than we already are with Lord of the Rings. And we will be back ASA Pizzle to do the Soviet Lord of the Rings, the greatest experience I have ever had in my entire life.
Which obviously this series has taken a lot.
Man. Yeah. Well, yeah. If your man is okay. Well, we will see you guys then. Thanks as always for tuning in. And bye-bye.
Asherlo. It's a big rant.